Today I want to share with you how to make fried cabbage with kielbasa. This is quick, easy, and affordable, and it makes a very nutritious weeknight supper. Hi sweet friends, I'm Mary and welcome to Mary's Nest, where I teach traditional cooking skills for making nutrient-dense foods like bone broth, ferment, sourdough, and more. So if you enjoy learning about those things, consider subscribing to my channel and don't forget to click on the little notification bell below. That'll let you know every time I upload a new video. Well, this is very easy to make, and the nice thing is it's a one-pot meal. We'll go over the ingredients, but you don't need to write anything down. Just open the description underneath this video, and there'll be a link there that'll take you over to the recipe. Well, you're going to want a head of cabbage, and this is just green cabbage, and this is about maybe a 2.5 pound head of cabbage, but this is not an exact science. This is home cooking. So no matter what size head of cabbage you have, it's going to work out just fine. Next, you're going to want some salt, pepper, and red pepper flakes. I've got a 1/2 teaspoon of salt here. We'll taste it at the end and see if it needs more than that. I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper and a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. But if you don't really like very much spice to anything, you can certainly leave out the red pepper flakes. You're also going to need 1 tablespoon of a coarse ground mustard and 1 tablespoon of an apple cider vinegar. And this is just my homemade apple cider vinegar. If you want to learn how to make that, I'll definitely link to it in the iCards and in the description below. Now you're going to need some fat to fry up this cabbage in, and you can use all butter or you can use all bacon grease. I like to use a combination of butter and bacon grease. I feel it gives the perfect flavor, sort of a nice smoothness from the butter, but then that wonderful sort of smoky, bacony flavor from the bacon grease. And next you're going to want some kielbasa. Now, if you wanted to just make this as is, you could certainly do that. But adding the kielbasa into this really takes it from a side dish to a full main dish meal. Now, kielbasa is basically a sausage, and I believe kielbasa in Polish means sausage. And it's usually made with pork, and then maybe it's got some salt and some spices, some paprika, some garlic. And there you have it, a wonderful Polish sausage. Sometimes it's also made with beef and pork. And today you can even find it made from turkey. And that's what I have here, a turkey kielbasa. Now over here on the end, I've got some bacon. And it's optional to you whether you want to add bacon into this or not. And you're sort of making it a double meat fest by adding in the bacon. But I definitely think it adds something very special. Now, when I was a little girl, up to about the age of 5, my parents lived in a community that was primarily populated by first-generation Americans who had moved there from Poland. And there were always a lot of church suppers and get-togethers and whatnot with lots of wonderful Polish food. And I really remember as a little girl enjoying the cabbage and the kielbasa. But when I moved to Texas, I discovered that there are a lot of ways to make fried cabbage. First, there's a wonderful southern fried cabbage that I've had here in Texas that I think is pretty much, the recipe is pretty much borrowed from our neighbors in Louisiana because it's got a real Cajun it's got a real Cajun taste to it. It's got red bell peppers, green bell peppers in it, as well as Cajun spice, and it's just delightful. And we also live in the Texas Hill Country, and here in this area is a town called Fredericksburg that has a German history. And so there's a lot of cabbage and German sausage recipes that you can enjoy at the restaurants in Fredericksburg as well. And you may know of more cabbage and sausage recipes, and if you do, please share in the comments below, because I think any family who makes cabbage and kielbasa or cabbage and sausage most likely has a wonderful family recipe. Now I want to mention, I always save my bacon grease whenever I make bacon, and if you are planning on adding bacon to this recipe but you don't save your bacon grease, you'll have plenty of bacon grease needed for this recipe because you just need 1 tablespoon of it. And so if you do add bacon and you're cooking it right now to add into this recipe, then you'll have what you need. But if you don't have any bacon grease and you don't want to add any bacon, definitely you can just go with 2 tablespoons of butter and that'll work beautifully. Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is have your pot on your stove top and put it to medium heat and go ahead and add in your butter. And then if you're using bacon grease, go ahead and add in that. Now while my butter and bacon grease is melting, I'm going to go ahead and begin to cut up my kielbasa. Now what I've got here is a 12-ounce piece of kielbasa. If you have a 1-pound piece, that's fine too. As I said, this is very flexible. It's just home cooking, so it doesn't really matter whether you have a 12-ounce piece or a 1-pound or a 16-ounce piece. Now what you'll want to do is just cut this lengthwise. And then once you cut it lengthwise, we're going to go ahead and cut it into little half-moon bite-sized pieces. So now that I've got my 2 pieces cut lengthwise, I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting these into half-moons. Just like this, a nice bite-sized piece. So you just want to continue cutting up all of your kielbasa until you've got it into nice bite-sized pieces. And basically, you're just going to be looking at something like this. Next, once you've got your kielbasa all cut up into some nice bite-sized pieces here, go ahead and add it to your pan. Now you just want to toss your kielbasa real well in the butter bacon grease mixture. And now we're going to cook this for about 6 to 8 minutes just to get it nice and browned. Well, as this kielbasa is browning up beautifully, now we'll get ready to cut up our cabbage. Now what you want to do is cut your cabbage in half, and then once you have the 2 halves, you want to go ahead and remove the core. Now, don't throw the core out. If you like to make ferments, the core of the cabbage is wonderful to add, whether you're making a sauerkraut or whether you're making another type of fermented vegetable. The core is very rich in what's known as prebiotics, and this is what the good bacteria love to eat in order to proliferate and have you make a successful ferment. Once you get the core out, cut each cabbage half into half again because it'll be easier to work with. And at this point, all you're going to want to do is cut up your cabbage into bite-sized pieces. So I've just taken this quarter and cut it in half, and now I'm just going to go crosswise like this and start cutting this into bite-sized pieces. Now when you brown your kielbasa, you're going to get some nice little brown bits. I believe it's called fond on the bottom of your pan. Now the cabbage has a lot of moisture in it. So once you put the cabbage in and it begins to sweat and release the moisture, those brown bits will start to release from the bottom of your pan, and they're going to make this overall dish very tasty. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in my salt and my 2 peppers. And oops, making a little bit of a mess. And then I'm just going to go ahead and turn all of this around, stir this around with the kielbasa. And then now we're ready to go ahead and put in all this cabbage. Once you get all of your cabbage into your pan, you can just try and toss it a little bit. My pan's a little on the small side. But you can just try and toss it a little bit with the kielbasa and all the wonderful butter and bacon grease that's in here, and it'll begin to soften. Now once you get the cabbage nicely tossed with the kielbasa, what you want to do is simply turn your heat down to its lowest setting, and then you want to get a lid, put it onto your pot, and just let this simmer on the lowest setting you have for about 8 to 10 minutes. And check it halfway through just to make sure nothing is sticking. But after about 8 to 10 minutes, the cabbage should be softened and it'll be ready to enjoy. Now, if you plan on adding bacon, you can also go ahead and add it, crumble it up and add it at this point, and it'll begin to soften. So it's really a matter of what texture you like, because I prefer to add the bacon at the end so that it has a little different texture than the kielbasa. You know, when you add it in now and it softens up, it's almost more like a ham. But if you put it in towards the end, it retains some of its crispiness, and I think that makes for a lovely contrast of textures. But it's really up to you. So if you want it softened, crumble it up, go ahead and add it in now, mix it real well, put your lid on, and then in 8 to 10 minutes, we should be all ready to eat. Well, this just needed about 8 minutes, and it's looking wonderful. The cabbage has softened beautifully. Now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and add in my bacon and just let that warm through. Well, I've stirred that bacon all in. It doesn't need more than 30 seconds at most to warm through. Well, this is ready. Now, what you want to do is turn your heat off, and then off the heat, we're going to go ahead and add in first, we'll put in our mustard, our nice grained mustard here. We're going to add wonderful flavor. And then we're going to go ahead and add in our vinegar. Next, we'll go ahead and give this a good spin. Well, the bacon is warmed through, and now we need to give this a taste. I think it's going to be scrumptious. Let me get a little bit of everything on my fork here. Mmm. Mmm. That is so tasty. The cabbage is cooked perfectly. And the kielbasa, oh, this turkey kielbasa is really flavorful. And the mustard and the vinegar, it just all comes together. It's so perfect. I think you're going to really enjoy this, and I hope you'll make it. Now, if you'd like to make more suppers like this, be sure to click on this video over here, where I have apples with pork chops, German potato salad, red cabbage, just a lot of wonderful traditional meals. I think you're going to really enjoy them. And I'll see you over there in my Texas Hill Country Kitchen. Love and God bless.